Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special Tramelcast of the Neil Haley Show, the Storehouse Media Group Podcast, and Criminally Good with Jen and Sherrie. All right, so guys, you have a great guest today. Go ahead and introduce him for you.
Well, we do have a great guest, and I'm excited about it. Our guest today has lived the kind of life and the journey that true crime podcasters report on, but Wade Williamson actually lived them. So when he had to take another life in order to save his own, now he had to face the justice system as he got charged for murder and took 5 years to defend that it and to prove that it was justified. Welcome, Wade Williamson. It's really an honor to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And yes, you hit it exactly right. I think a lot of people have the notion, well, I own a weapon, I keep it in my home, I have the right to defend myself. You do, but that doesn't mean you can't get charged. And as you stated, I was charged. I was looking at life in prison, and it took right at 5 years for me to finally get my name cleared. And I'm sure we can get into it here in the program, but I don't need to tell you. At one time I had hair. That can take a lot of stress off you throughout that time because you have no idea what's going on. And everybody in the world can tell you, oh, man, you're good. You ain't got nothing to worry about. But it's not your name on that paper saying, blah, 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 versus the state of South Carolina, which happens to be where I reside. So it was still a lot of stress throughout that 5 years.
Wade, Jennifer here. It's just good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, I want to just jump straight in. You want to give everybody just a short insight of what happened that night?
Yeah. So the short insight is me and my wife were together for an extended period of time. Like any marriage, when you're together for a while, you have some ups and downs, some rough patches. We decided that we were going to separate. It was a mutual agreement. The only thing I told her is I said, well, you can stay here at the house, but if you decide to meet somebody, then I'm going to come back home and then you'll go somewhere else. And, eventually she did. My wife's a very attractive woman. And I say wife because even after all this, we are still married. So that was the agreement. And we were on the road for a divorce. We had an attorney. We had everything agreed. That was the path we were heading down. So I moved back in the home. She moved into another home. And for a few months, we didn't really speak with each other. When it came time to be the first Christmas that we were apart, we were trying to figure out how we were going to navigate it because we did have kids, a younger son at the time, older daughter at the time. Both of them were still in school. Trying to figure out how we are going to navigate the situation. And, you could just tell there was like still a little something there. But I think neither one of us thought we wanted to jumpstart it again. I mean, when you have kids with somebody and you're with them for 10 plus years, I think unless it's just an absolutely miserable breakup, you're always going to have love for them. And you can tell that was still there with us. But like I said, neither one of us thought it was something we were going to reignite. Fast forward a little bit past that, we did decide, hey, there might be something here because things weren't really working out with the guy she was seeing. I was seeing a girl and it wasn't really nothing that I thought would materialize to anything. It was a filler, basically. And we decided, hey, I think we are going to give this one more shot. And what we actually agreed on, we was going to go forward with the divorce, get it, and date, start over, restart the whole thing. And if it looked like, hey, we can salvage this, then we get married for $50 at the courthouse and we'll keep on rolling. If it looks like, hey, you know what, we love each other, but we can't be together, which is a very, real thing, then we're free to go our separate ways. We're already divorced. We don't have to start this whole process over again. So that's what we decided to do. We told our family April of 2018 that we were going to get back together. Obviously, they were extremely happy. We went on a trip to Myrtle Beach. When we got back, it was the time that we were going to tell the two people that we were, kind of seeing that we were going to get back together. The girl that I seen could really care less. The guy that she was, kind of off and on seeing, he had an issue with it. Now, originally when she told him, he left the house that that she was at the time because she was renting. Now, he didn't take all of his stuff, so she was worried that at some point, if she left the home, he may come back, destroy the home, and then she would be on the hook for, damages and whatnot. So she did go try to stay there to make sure he didn't come back and do anything. Now, not that she thought that he would have been verbally violent, or not verbally, physically violent, but just, you don't know, if somebody's getting a boot, they could come destroy the house, and they know your name's on the leash, and you'll be on the hook. So I didn't really speak to her for a few hours. I didn't get a contact from her at all. I knew that she had given the news. I knew he left. That's the last time we spoke. Well, I get a phone call later on that night from my daughter at around 11:30. She had got off work, and it was my wife. she had told me that he had come back. He did get violent. He did break her phone, and he was actually making her ride around and look for me. Now, obviously, he didn't know exactly where I was living. He knew my house, but I wasn't home. So he didn't know exactly where I was at, and he didn't know my number at the time. So by then he had already calmed down, and he had went to a friend of mine's house. They actually rode by there looking for me. He sensed something was wrong, and he was able to convince that guy to stop off and stay with him. Well, I don't know how long y'all got. Y'all have a time limit on this?
We're going 30, but they just keep going. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I'll kind of get to the meat here. Long story short, they meet. Later on in the night, we wound up meeting face to face. He wanted to talk to me, and he set this up with like, hey, I want to talk. I don't want no drama. I just got a few questions to ask man to man. So I go, I meet him, I talk, and it's very civil. Really, he wanted to know, have we been seeing each other the whole time? And I was like, no, man, we've been separated. She was doing her thing. I was doing mine. I was like, but at the end of the day, I don't owe you an explanation. Well, long story short, we stay there. We talk a little bit. It winds under very weird circumstances. It winds up being 3 guys just hanging out in the garage at some point in time. Well, about 3 a.m., he said he wants to go home or home. His car was back at the residence where my wife was. So we go to leave, and he was like, man, if I go back home or back there, he's like, we're probably going to start arguing. And at this point, we're kind of joking. I'm like, you ain't got to tell me. I lived with her for 12 years. I know how that goes. And he was like, do you care if we just go to your house? Now, the house we were at and the house where I'm at, we're like 8 houses apart, right? It's in a cookie cutter subdivision neighborhood. So at this point, we've been together 3 hours. Nothing was hostile. Nothing was felt like any sort of violence. We go back to my house. He proceeds to tell me a story about a guy he was in combat with, literally starts crying in front of me. At this point, I'm thinking all reservations are down. When a man cries in front of another man, you no longer have any sort of macho era that you're trying to uphold. We go in my house. We're in my house for hours. We're sharing stories about his ex, my, kids, our kids, his kids. He had kids as well. And then at some point he sees this scar. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's a scar right here. And he sees that I had open heart surgery. Well, he lifts up my shirt to see like the full scar. And there's no way he didn't see the weapon that I had on me. Like I said, I was licensed to carry. I always had my weapon on me. When I left that house, I had it on me that night to go meet them. When I come back, all my bedrooms are upstairs. When I take it off in the bedroom. I never went upstairs. Me and him were in the downstairs that night. That's a question I always get. Why'd you have your gun on you in the kitchen? Well, I never went upstairs to take it off. We were in downstairs the entire time. He had to see it. He didn't make a notion of it. He asked to go to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom. He comes back out. And as soon as he comes back out, he did not say a word. He didn't give me any notion that this whole script had flipped, so to speak. He comes straight up to me, hand up under this area right here, pushed me back. Actually went up onto like the stove in my kitchen, and he's looking me dead in my eyes. And I always told people like I couldn't tell what color his eyes were. I didn't know that gray was an eye color. Apparently, a small population has gray eyes. His eyes looked gray at the time, like there was nothing there. And he looks me dead in my eyes, and I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but he said, I'm going to effing kill you. Mm-hmm. And I was able to get off the stove back onto my feet, and I gave him the warning. I said, man, if you don't get off me, I'm going to shoot you. And I see him come back with his right hand. It's coming right towards my face. I was able to lift up a little bit, and he kind of clipped the bottom of my chin. Well, when he did that, he let go with his left hand. He swung with the right. He was holding with his left. He kind of let go. When he did, I knew that was my only opportunity to take the shot. I drew out my weapon, and I fired 3 shots. All of them hit center mass. He fell. I immediately called 911. Now, one of the things that I get is, why you couldn't fight him head up? Well, no, I couldn't, because I had just had back surgery about a week prior to this. I was unable to, try to defend myself physically at that point. And this guy was no weakling. He was about 6'2". He was pretty juiced. He was a former Army combat guy. And that night he had actually shot steroids. I didn't even know all that until later. But I immediately called 911. They came. They assessed the situation. They put me in the car. Originally said they were holding me. Then they come later and said that I was under arrest. Then actually about an hour after that, I still have not even left the house. I'm in front of my house in the cop car. I told them I had to use the restroom. They actually let me out of the car, used the restroom, and then told me was there somewhere I could go while they finished their investigation. Well, I went to a house around the corner. They come there, let me know that they were done, asked me when I could come in to give them a statement. Well, I said, I'm going to speak with my lawyer and we'll set up a time. This was all Sunday morning now at this time when this happened. I meet with my lawyer on Monday morning. We give the statement. On Tuesday, they call and tell me they're charging me with murder.
That's an awful lot to go through, Wade.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That story, in so many ways, I want you guys to ask the questions, but I'm just blown away absolutely by this story. Understanding what I've done in a situation like that. Wow. Go ahead with your questions, guys.
I think I look at this and I wonder, at what point did you realize that you're having to defend yourself with the legal system, that because you spent 5 years in that battle. And I wonder about this prosecutor looking at you in your own home, having to defend your life, and why a 5-year process.
Yeah, I mean, well, part of that was due to COVID. The lawyer that I had was one of the best in the areas here in the Carolinas. I'm in the Charleston area, the Low Country. It was a lawyer by the name of Andy Savage. Very high profile lawyer. If you Google him, he's worked some of the top cases around here. He was, when I found out I was getting charged, the lawyer that I had that I'd done the statement with was my divorce lawyer. Now, he was a former cop, but he wasn't who I was fixing to go to bat with on a murder trial. And so I started making calls to everybody saying, who do I need? Who do I need? Everybody kept coming back with the same name, which was Andy. So when we locked in, I asked Andy, I basically told him the story, a lot more detailed version. This is a short version I'm telling y'all, but I gave it to him and he said, why are we here? And I'm saying, well, what do you mean? Why? I mean, you told me to come to your office. He's like, no, I mean, why are we going through this? He's like, this is a clean shoot. And he was like, I don't know what's going on. Well, the detective that was over the case had just gotten promoted. She was, I think, property crimes before that. She had just gotten promoted to the detective. His thought process was she seen that this was, what maybe looked on the outside was an estranged marriage. Maybe I was a jealous husband, killing this guy to possibly get back with my wife. But the thing was, those context clues were all messed up. You had the right idea. You just had the wrong guy. We were getting back together. I was getting what I wanted out of the situation, which was reconnecting with my wife. Now, he was the one that was upset. He was the one that might have had those motives. But I think she was trying to spin this into some sort of like lover's triangle thing and make a case out of it. Now, when I got charged, this was the end of 2018 or April of 2018. I was arrested. I was able to make bond even on the murder charge. I'd never been in trouble before. I'm not a criminal. I did not have a criminal record, nothing on my record. So that helped. Plus, this was an isolated thing. It wasn't like I was a danger to the community. So I was able to get out of jail in 2 days. Luckily,
and that's much better than going to prison, right?
Oh, yes. 100%.
What's the difference between jail and prison? I mean, you never got in prison.
Yeah, I never got there. Okay.
Well, Jennifer, tell me, because you, as a law enforcement, what's the difference between being in jail to prison?
Jail is still while you're still in the process of what's going to go on.
Is it safer?
Not always.
It can be, but not always. It really depends on the jail you're in, and what section of the jail you're in. And it also just depends on who you're in with, because you don't know who's going to snap just whatever one day.
And what you're in there for.
Yeah. And sometimes prisons, I know in my past with law enforcement, we've also had people who've gotten convicted and they're in the waiting process of getting shipped off to prison. And they just want to hurry up and get to that portion. They are so tired of being in the jail because of the problems, the overcrowding, the food, everything. And they just want to get to the next level because it's a better environment for what they have to do. I mean, you're still going to be doing, incarceration. Wow. Sherrie, what you got there?
Well, Wade, 5 years is a long time to defend yourself. I mean, I can imagine emotionally what that was doing, looking over your shoulder. I don't know what kept that going for you. I mean, what put you to where you could stand and got you through it? Because that's a lot of emotional, all kinds of stuff.
I mean, it was really the fight for my freedom, to be honest, because when I was out, I was on house arrest. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, do anything. I was immediately fired from the job that I'd had for 15 years. So now I got to find employment. Finding employment with a pending murder charge, as you can probably guess, is not the easiest thing in the world.
No.
So I had to overcome that battle. Not to mention the lawyers charging $50,000 for the case, and then I got to give another $15,000 on retainer. So the company that I work for, the only saving grace to getting fired was that I then had access to my 401k, which I basically completely obliterated to try to help save myself, which was worth it. I mean, you can't put a price on freedom, but this whole process was just very slow going. And then it was right in the middle of COVID, which pretty much put a stop to anything in the courtroom. They asked my lawyer, did he want to do any types of trials via Zoom or Skype? And he said, absolutely not. That's not how he worked. He was in a courtroom guy. I was able to finally land employment. So I was able to kind of make do while we were going. He's like, if you were struggling, that would be one thing. He said, if you're good, then I would rather do this in a courtroom. And so that just drug for a long time before it was ever able to get back to court. The solicitors on the case changed. It was a solicitor originally. He wound up leaving. A new solicitor got put in place. She was only there for maybe 3 months. She left. Another new one got on there. And I'd started my own podcast, Crime and Entertainment, towards the end of this, right after COVID. I started during COVID, really. And they were actually allowing me to travel. They were allowing me to go to New York and everything else. So that really became my outlet to help me with this. I threw all my energy into something that I could just focus on that was good. Because otherwise, there's no telling what I might have turned to help get me through this. It was a very stressful time period.
Was it also because you shot a former military?
I mean, no, that really didn't have anything to play in it. I mean, I wouldn't have cared if it was military or not. I was protecting myself. It
No, I'm not saying that, but what the police decided.
It could have been. I mean,
because law enforcement and the military have a pretty tight bond, don't they, Jennifer?
For the most part, yeah. And there are so many people in law enforcement that are prior military, and also you said that they're based on your detective involved in that case. Who's to say that she may or may not have been in military or married to somebody prior military or a parent that was prior military. They do come together, although there are incidents of, both problematic military as problematic law enforcement. It's or any career field. There's,
This gentleman did have PTSD. He was actually removed from the Army. The story that he told me in the car when he began to cry was that he had gotten in a shootout with the guy in combat, and that the Army said he wasn't able to save him. So that's why he got in trouble and got released, or whatever they call it. I don't really know the terminology. What actually happened, we found this out after we started doing investigative work. What actually happened was he was intelligence. He was never in battle. Now, still served, but he gave the guy bad intel that led him in to basically an ambush, resulting in his death. And that's why he got released, or whatever you call that word, from the Army. But he did have PTSD. He was diagnosed with it. The night of, he was on PTSD medications. He was on I think 3 times the legal limit in alcohol at that point when we got the toxicology report back, on top of shooting steroids the night of, which the detective recovered from that other home that night.
What if you were in another state, not South Carolina? Would you have gotten off?
Well, you would think South Carolina would be one that you would get off.
Yeah, right. True.
But
let's just say
in New York, I'm doing life. If this is in New York, I'm doing life. Or another blue state, I'm doing life. So that's another thing that really opened my eyes to this. Florida, Texas, South Carolina. You think of those places as really more gun friendly, especially in your home, a licensed gun.
No doubt.
The state of which everything happened, you had all sorts of people to back this story, and still I was on the hook, looking at 25 to life. And it was a very difficult time. And not to mention, like I said earlier, I had kids in school. So this was a neighborhood, a small community. As you can imagine, the rumors were flying and swirling. And I heard everything from I come home from work and found my wife with another man. We had been split up for 6 months at this point. I mean, people come up with the craziest scenarios in their head that really had no idea about what was going on. And that was a hard part too, having to keep quiet when I'm hearing all these people say this that I'm seeing in Publix and in the grocery stores and on a repetitive nature, because everybody goes to the same grocery store in this neighborhood. So the
why has this not been a story yet? Why has this not been let's say a Lifetime movie or something yet?
You know, we only just got through this like 2 years ago. The finalization.
I already can see. I think it could.
No, I
just one movie, like a Lifetime movie, or even who knows, certain documentary. There's a lot of things. Because it's unimaginable what you've just told me. Okay. Yeah. And if you told this story to a police officer, and I'm going to ask Jennifer and Sherrie this, because they both, one's still, Jennifer, I guess I still consider a police officer, but Sherry's retired police officer. If you heard that story, would you believe that story with all the information you got? Want to hear? I'm throwing both of them on the spot on this.
I would, and I think the thing would be is, looking at all of it. I wasn't there. I don't have all of it.
But you have all the evidence, evidence against him.
But I know, having read the articles, I met Wade out in CrimeCon. I read the newspaper articles and the different interviews he did. I watched several of his crime and entertainment podcasts, and other things. Ian Bick's interview with him, and I got to tell you, he hasn't wavered. He hasn't changed a bit of it. He tells it very matter-of-factly. He certainly doesn't try to embellish the story to any level. I've not heard any of those things that I would have picked up on somebody. So I am in shock that in South Carolina, you would have to spend, even with COVID year, that you'd have to spend 5 years through a legal system to get to where somebody sits down and says, no, this is self-defense, but I try to tell people all the time, you have a right to self-defense and to stand your ground and the different things that go on in different states with laws. But you also face penitentiary time for doing that. Am I going to protect myself in my home or my family in my home? You bet. And I don't know a law enforcement officer that's not going to do that, in their own home. I don't know anybody that wouldn't try to defend their own family and themselves in their own home. But there's a legal system that sometimes gets very convoluted, and it takes a long time for somebody rational to sit down and look at the paperwork and say, wait a minute here, hold on a second. And I don't know, Sherrie, you've been in it.
All right, Sherrie, if you just let's say evidence just came to you. Evidence is that he's divorced, that are separated, and it's would you start to dig deeper? This is where I'm going, Wade, on this. Let's just say you're presenting all this information. Potentially, he had some backing. He knew some people. The story goes, you're separated. You're not with her anymore. A man's scorn. What would you say, Sherrie? What questions, thought process, what would you have on this?
Well, a few things that I think would be in his favor. Number one, you called 911 immediately. There wasn't any delay. There wasn't any cover up. I mean, you called and you told them what happened. So you were very upfront, says another. And that toxicology report would make me think, he may have a point there. I think all the things going on with that guy, to me, puts him in a very volatile position or, mindset. So I would probably look at it and think, let's look a little deeper, because he may have had reason to fear for his life and for, to protect himself.
So I want to throw another tough question out at you there, Wade. What's your favorite place to eat in the Charleston area? For those folks that want to get down to the Charleston, South Carolina region, because there's a lot,
we're big on seafood down here. One of my favorite places to eat downtown is Hyman Seafood. It's if you go in there, it's kind of like if anybody's ever been to like Pat's and Gino's in Philly, and they have all the pictures of the celebrities that eat there. Hyman Seafood is very similar. You got, all sorts of people: Dolly Parton, Ric Flair. You name it, sports stars, actors, politicians, all scattered throughout this. I don't know if it's a 3-story building. It's very huge. But it's really good seafood. Hyman Seafood. Go check it out if you're down here in the Low Country, 100%.
That's pretty cool. And Gamecocks or Tigers?
So I know this is a bad way to say it. I pull for both. And that day in November, because I like anybody from the Carolinas that do good, right? Panthers, Gamecocks, Chanticleers down there in Myrtle Beach. Shout out Chanticleers. But when it comes down to it and I got to go with one, we're going with them Tigers, baby.
Okay. I'm in a Gamecock family, and I'm a Hokie, just so you know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but we're gonna bring it back around. Crime and Entertainment is your podcast, and
ma'am.
you said you got started in COVID, and of course you're in an unemployment sort of situation, and you've got your 401k and a lot happening to you, a lot of stress on you. What's the most meaningful episode you think you've had on your Crime and Entertainment so far? That I guess knowing what you carry into a conversation based on what you've been through.
Well, I've had a lot. I've had a lot with a lot of different people. I just had an interview with a lady from New York that had some very bad situations happen to her with her own father for over a year. And one of those clips actually just did 1 million on Instagram and almost 1 million on YouTube. It's at like 850,000. But if I had to pick one, I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Andre Brown with his lawyer, Oscar Michelin, and other lawyer, Jeff Deskovic. Andre was in the middle of a 40-year sentence here. He had served 22 years for an attempted double murder. Finally, there was evidence that came to be that the lawyer did not use what he had at his disposal to prove Andre's innocence. The main thing to be was the key witness said he seen Andre running away from the shooting. That's it, running away. Andre was actually shot in his leg earlier in his life. And if he ran, he would be a very distinctive runner. You'd be like, that guy had a funny looking run, because he did not run like normal people. That was never brought up. That was never disclosed. His case was overturned due to ineffective counsel. So he got out of prison. This was, I think, at the end of 2023. All right. I was his first interview when he got out. I asked him then, I was like, you're not exonerated. Your conviction was only overturned due to ineffective counsel. How do you go about living knowing that they could try to send you back? And he said, I just leave it up to God. And, you're the first person that ever asked me that question. So kudos to you for asking. Very, very positive minding individual. The beginning of last year, they recalled him to go back to prison after being out for 2.5 years. They said he was going to go back. Not only, he didn't just have one, he didn't have two, he didn't have 3 dates that he was supposed to surrender to go back to finish up his 18 years in prison. On the 4th one, they finally told him he didn't have to come back. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, finally resentenced him to time served. Now he can strictly focus on his exoneration. But I went back to New York and interviewed him right before he was scheduled to go back to prison. And to interview a man once that had been 22 years for something he didn't do, and now been out for 3 years, worked with the youth, been a part of his children's life, been an upstanding member of the community, worked for a federal judge, and was about to go back to do 18 more years, I could just feel everything in him. Every word, I could feel it. And luckily, we done that to try to bring awareness to the situation. Luckily, the governor of New York had a change of heart and resentenced him to time served. That's one of them that'll always remain special to me. Not that, that podcast helped do it, but it was just a part of the whole ongoing process. And me and Andre remain friends to this day.
Okay. All right. Best place we can find information on Wade. Where can we go?
We're everywhere, man. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Instagram, TikTok. Just search Crime and Entertainment and you will find us. Hollywood Wade, Crime and Entertainment. We do weekly shows.
All right, fantastic. And go to JenniferClarkeEskew.com and purchase her book, and go to StorehouseMediaGroup.com for all things publishing, ghostwriting, podcasting, and media. Take care, guys. That was a special Trimulcast, the Neil Haley Show, Storehouse Media Group Podcast, and Criminally Good with Jen and Sherrie. Take care.